Hi, so I wanted to address this post by Benjamin Wilson on LinkedIn, and I think it requires a video response rather than a written response. And as you listen to me, you'll understand why. I hopefully. So when you look at this, he's saying that one of his biggest frustrations with the job market right now is that the seeming need to be hyperbolic or exaggerated, if you will. He's realistic and humble to avoid saying things he does not fully believe. He's saying, so when he's asked questions like, hey, tell us why you're the best fit for this position, his answer is full of qualifiers like I think or I believe. But how can I compete with other candidates who are willing to exaggerate their abilities, experience, or enthusiasm? That's his question. He thinks that it makes him come across as unsure or guarded because, well, he is, and that doesn't mean I'm less capable than a candidate who has a more snappy or bold answer than him. So I'd like for you to think of interviews in this manner. Every value proposition or relationship exchange communication has a buy and sell transaction at the very basic fundamental level of it. So when you're talking about you interviewing, being realistic and humble, I'm assuming this is your way of saying I'm not exaggerating or I'm not being hyperbolic. You have to remember that an interview is you're the hero of your own story. What did you accomplish? What are you really good at? What are some of the things you're not great at? I'm buying something as an interviewer, an employer and company. And we'll talk about recruiters and their downfall, if you will, or ways of improving, because you're right. Some questions that you address below here really are invaluable. They do not have a value and they're actually confusing and don't add anything to the conversation. But for this particular paragraph, you are selling something. And me as an interviewer, as an employer, I'm looking to buy something, right? So you should explain in the best light possible without mincing words or exaggerating. You should be able to tell a good story. And if you're not able to tell a good story about what you provide, what you bring to the table, then yes, somebody else that may be less capable, but more, as you say, snappy and bold may get the position. But that's why the whole package is important, right? It's a whole package. And if something falls through with an employer, I want you to know that it's not you, it's them. That particular relationship and buy and sell transaction just was not the right one. It doesn't mean you're any less capable. It doesn't mean you're any less snappy. But one of the things I recommend is going on a lot of interviews just to hone that skill. I think Franklin Covey said, sharpen the saw. Go on those, uh, go on those experiences, go on those interviews and hone your skill of interviewing, talking more by yourself. So being humble and realistic, you don't get a cookie for that. If you want to improve your abilities, you've got to put yourself in positions where you're able to tell your story in a truthful manner to make it land as to why, as an interviewer, why, as a company, they would be interested in buying what you're selling, if you will. Okay. Now, the other part is this part here, which is exaggerating what other candidates may be doing for their abilities, experience, or enthusiasm. I think it's pretentious actually because you don't know if they're exaggerating, or just because another candidate received the position doesn't mean they're exaggerated, right? But so you assuming that you're competing with others, that in order for them to get the position, they are willing to exaggerate their abilities, they exaggerate their experience, or they exaggerate their enthusiasm, says more about you and your thinking about how you think that um, they are exaggerating in order to get the position. I don't necessarily think that's the case. It was just a better selling point, a better package deal. Again, it's not you, it's the employer. That particular transaction just wasn't for you. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're less than. Now, the other thing is the absolute worst question like this I keep seeing on applications. Why are you excited to work for company X? That is the most asinine question, or one of the most asinine questions. That shows a recruiter that's lacking in skill because I would not be excited to work for company X unless it's Tesla, Microsoft, Google, the big ones, right? So if you're just company X, why would I be excited? I mean, if we would stop being pretentious, I think we all agree that I would be excited to work for a particular role, maybe for the skills that I would gain that are a little bit above where I'm at now, right? So that would be interesting, but not necessarily for the company. At the end of the day, again, it's a buying and selling transaction. You're going to pay me for my services, and hopefully I pick a position where I walk away with more skills, right? So yes, this is a, this is a challenge. This is a problem on the company side because their recruiter or whoever HR is not really thinking this through. This is a filler. This is what they call a filler. I didn't know your company existed 5 minutes ago. I've applied to 60 plus jobs in the last month. If I get excited about every job listing I come across, I'm fooling myself. I could get excited, but not until there's some evidence that it could work out. Again, misdirected. It's not so much the company. Yes, you can get excited about a 401k, but a corporation, a company, a corporation is corpse, is a dead entity. Why would I get excited about working 9 to 5 for somebody else? Period. I don't think if we all asked ourselves, that's not what we get excited about. We get excited about skill sets that we walk away from. We get excited about our ability to do something that's fulfilling, right? It's fulfilling our spirit, something that makes a difference in the world. That's what drives us. And Benjamin, I could see that you're interested in human rights and climate, I think it was, and some of the other very important human aspects of society. That's wonderful. So maybe a good way to answer this type of question is to answer it in a truthful manner. Depending on who's on the other side, you could say, well, I'm not so much interested about company X that I'm not very familiar with, right? But I'm excited about the role. I'm excited about day-to-day tasks you're looking for because I have them. Plus, I'm excited about other skills that I may be exposed to, like, for example, healthcare or climate, for example, if that's your thing. You can point out, so you could still answer these in a truthful manner without any exaggeration. To continue, you say, maybe I'm being too literal. Maybe questions like this are just a cutesier version of say something to show us that you read the whole job description and care a little bit. And I guess there's no real harm in feigning excitement. Besides that, it feels disingenuous. You're absolutely right. The whole thing, the whole dance is disingenuous because we both know I'm there for the paycheck because it's a job, and you're there because you need a minion to do the work and they won't do it for free, right? So if we just drop those masks and get to the bottom of it, then we can find truthful things we can authentically be excited about. So no, I don't think that we can just assume that if I'm applying, I care. I think that's lying to yourself and to the employer. And sometimes, if you just direct in answering that, there's a lot of respect there for yourself and also for the recruiter because that will wake them up too. I remember one time earlier, much earlier in my career, I had a recruiter ask me questions that were so robotic. You could tell he was reading from a script. And I asked him, I said, am I talking to a robot? It seems like there is no follow-up questions to what I had just answered. There's no human aspect to it. It was very monotone, very robotic, and very much a checking of a box. So that has to do with, do you, recruiter, care about recruiting for this position? Do you care about your job enough and finding a fill for this job enough to make it important to you? I think that we are in the age of the corporate world is not working anymore for our human aspect. And so if we stood up, if we responded in a much better way to some of these questions, then they will change. So I hope that my message is received with the utmost care and respect because that's where I'm coming from. That's my intention. Because I think that you really did want an answer for this. And I do really believe that you're frustrated. I know a lot of these answers here are also probably pretentious and they're kind of superficial and they just touch the top of the issue rather than going deep down into ourselves as individuals and what turns us on, what lights us up, and then what's on the other side of that, right? So I'm looking forward to your comments. I hope this is helpful and I wish you the best.